Okay, we have another example of a mixed factoring practice. This time we have 32x cubed plus 500y cubed. So you'll notice now this is a binomial. It only has two terms, and we have cubes instead of squares. So our flowchart's really going to come in helpful here. First and foremost, we always start by removing the GCF. So if I scan this problem, I notice that the 32 and the 500 contain a factor of 4 in common. So I'm going to factor out the 4. And then that leaves me with x cubed plus 125y cubed. 8x cubed plus 125y cubed. So what I'm going to do now is focus on that binomial. So it says how many terms does a polynomial have? So 8x cubed plus 125y cubed has two terms. And now it asks me if it contains perfect squares or perfect cubes. Well, clearly here we have perfect cubes. 8 is a perfect cube. 125 is a perfect cube, and also our x and y have cubes. So we're following the cubes path, and now we just need to decide if we have a difference of cubes or a sum of cubes. Well, I know that this problem follows the sum of cubes pattern because, let's write that down, because there's a plus sign in our problem. If there was a minus sign in our problem, I would want the other version, which was the difference of cubes. Okay, so now we have to figure out our a and our b to use in our formula. So I'm going to look at the 8x cubed, and then I'm going to look at the 125y cubed. For 8x cubed, I know the term was 2x that got cubed. And for 125y cubed, I know it was 5y. So my a becomes 2x and my b becomes 5y. And those are the terms I'm going to use to substitute into the formula that I highlighted on the flow chart. So here is the formula that I'm going to use. I just have the same formula from down below, but I blew it up a little bit bigger. There's some hints that I want to share with you on how to effectively use this formula and for helping you memorize this formula. The first one is use your soap. Yeah, just like when you take a shower, soap. So because this is a sum, so I just drew an arrow there next to the plus sign, I know that my problem is going to start with a plus sign. When I said SOAP, SOAP is an acronym, SOAP. It stands for same, opposite, always, positive. And that refers to the signs in the problem. So whatever sign you originally had, in this case we originally had a plus sign, my factorization is going to start with a plus sign. So that's why we start with a plus b. Then we go to the opposite sign. So that's why my second sign in my formula is minus. But then we always end with a positive. So you'll notice both of the formulas end with plus b squared. So let's write those down. That stands for same, opposite, always, positive. So the acronym SOAP can help you remember that. So in the binomial, you have the same sign that your original problem had. Then in the trinomial, you start with the opposite sign, but then you always end with a positive sign. Now, there's a couple other things that are going to help you. We say square, multiply, square. So in your trinomial, your first term is your a value squared. Your middle term is the a times the b. And your last term is your b value squared. So let's start writing out our factorization. I can't forget that GCF of 4. Your GCF always comes along for the ride. It's just part of your problem until you get to the end. Now let's make a skeleton for our binomial. So we want a plus b. So our a and our b, I did that a little fast. Our a was the 2x, our b was the 5y. So I have 2x plus 5y. Then for my trinomial, I'm going to do that a value squared. So I'll simplify it in a minute. Right now I'm just going to show you. Okay, so here we have our answer that we got on the previous slide. And what we're going to do now is we're just going to check it, and we're going to make sure that we get back that original sum of cubes binomial that we started with. Okay. All right, so the first thing I want to do is I am going to focus on distributing the binomial to the trinomial. So first I'm going to start by distributing 2x to everything in that trinomial. So I have my 4 on the outside, and now I'm going to distribute the 2x. So when I distribute the 2x to the 4x squared, I get 8x cubed. When I distribute it to the minus 10xy, I get minus 20x squared y. And when I distribute it to the plus 25y squared, I get plus 50xy squared. All right, now let's distribute the 5y. So I'm going to come back and distribute 5y to everything. Now, I'm going to line up my like terms underneath each other and have them vertically so I know what terms to combine. So when I do 5y times 4x squared, that gives me plus 20x squared y. And when I do 5y times negative 10xy, that gives me minus 50xy squared. And then when I do 5y times plus 25y squared, there's my plus 125y cubed. Okay, and then that would end my long line of 6 terms. But now, as I can see, the negative 20x squared y and the plus 20x squared y, they're going to cancel out. And the plus 50xy squared and the minus 50xy squared, those are going to cancel out. So really, all I'm left with inside my parentheses is the 8x cubed plus the 125y cubed. So I still have that GCF of 4 on the outside, and then I have 8x cubed plus 125y cubed. And now my last step, watch, when I distribute that 4, there's my 32x cubed plus my 500y cubed, and I'm getting really excited here because that means I factored it correctly and it matches my original problem. So I know that my original problem and my answer to my original problem is correct.